Mr. McGee, don't make me angry. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
You are about to listen to the Totally Super Awesome 80s Reboot Overdrive podcast.
This podcast is our fan tribute to the Incredible Hulk TV show. Be advised that has been exposed to radiation and we caution to listen at your own risk. You have now entered GammaCast.
Welcome to the GammaCast. Oh, give myself the hiccups. I'm your host, Charlie, the Professor Esser. And with me, as always, is my awesome friend...
80s Music Girl.
Yay, 80s Music Girl. We love her. She's cool.
Thank you. I love you, too.
Oh, thank you. Tonight's episode, Season 4, Episode 7, Fastlane. Original air date is January 16th, 1981. David Brendan is driving a car from L.A. to New York, unaware there's a large sum of dirty money in the back. Both a couple of mechanics and the mob want it back. Directed by Frank Orsatti, written by Kenneth Johnson, who of course developed the series, and Ruben Letter. Bill Bixby, Jack Colvin, and Lou Ferrigno, of course, star, although, of course, Jack Colvin isn't in this episode. But do you know...
MIA.
Do you know who is in this episode?
You're gonna tell me, aren't you, Charlie?
Well, there's a lot of people in this. This is actually like one of these great. This is like a little reunion here. But I was really excited to see Victoria Carroll back.
I love her.
I know, and I just love that she. What I thought was just great is she plays people with big hair. Is what you can say about her. Because previous to this episode, she was in Mystery Man, where she played the, again, crazy blonde lady off to marry her rich Texas oil man. Although in that case, in that case it was actually a rodeo guy who was out stepping out on her, and she was ready to kill them both. But it was nice seeing her back. We had made mention the last time. Were you on when we were doing Mystery Man?
It doesn't sound familiar.
Okay. She actually went on to voice the She-Hulk in the 80s Hulk cartoon.
Sweet.
Yeah, she does a lot of voiceover work. She's very good. We also had Dick O'Neill, who played Callahan in this episode.
I like him.
Yeah. Do you know what's weird about this? I mean, he's in a lot of stuff. He was on Family Matters. He was on Sybil, Home Improvements, Dark Justice, Father Dowling Mysteries. This guy was all over the place. I thought this was Seinfeld's dad, but he's not Seinfeld's dad. He looks a lot like Seinfeld's dad, though. But but yeah, but he's been around, and does he have two Incredible Hulks to his name, or just one? That was one of the things I was saying, because there were like a lot of people have these multiple. Yeah, he had two. He was also in where'd it go? Come on. There you go. He was also in The Phenom as Cyrus T. McCormack. Is that The Phenom? Oh no, that's after this. Yes, that's coming up. He's going to be The Phenom.
Get to see him again.
Yeah, we're going to see him again. And the other guy who is our repeat actor is, of course, our actor playing Joe Conti.
Yes,
the man
very familiar face.
The man who would be a world famous racer, Robert F. Lyons. Prior to this, there's been a lot of stuff. Roswell and Freddy's Nightmares and a lot of great syndicated TV. And he had previously been in Escape from Los Santos.
Ah.
Yes, he played Evan. I'm trying to find it again, but yes. So so again, like I said, yes. Oh no, I'm sorry. No, he was in The Quiet Room. Someone else was in Escape from Los Santos.
Oh.
I mean,
Okay.
that's how many just crossovers we keep getting in. He was Sam in
Yeah.
The Quiet Room. So who I believe was the first MK Ultra character that they had. There was the guy, the crazy person that the doctor convinced to accept whatever he told him at face value and told him to go kill someone, and he was more than happy to do so. Yes.
Wow.
Oh, it was crazy. So tonight's episode, and this is another one of these episodes where you just gotta say, where is David getting this money?
Yeah. Isn't that funny?
He's
It's like, it's not a hop, skip, and a jump to New York from LA, that's for sure.
Yeah, and he's just driving this. I mean, let's see.
Gas stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm wondering, what was he returning a car to New York? Was that the idea, or was he? It seemed like he was renting the car.
It seemed as though he was.
Yeah.
But for some reason, in a contract, I suppose, which I guess I missed, he was supposed to stop off in Flagstaff before he headed further east.
Well, I don't know if that's on the way or not.
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe Route 66, maybe. No.
He's going from L.A. It says he's going from L.A. Anyway,
Yeah.
but I just love the fact that they really have no effort to hide this money because
No, they did a very bad job at that.
yeah, they're not the best. They're not the most subtle criminals. I think we can agree.
No.
Because of course Joe Conti, our ex-race car driver, threw the tire in, and of course which actually says they basically filled the wheel well, which means that had the guy actually tried to put the spare in the wheel well, he would have found all that money anyway. So.
Yeah.
But he sees the money and he realizes there's something. This is his one chance to get back to the big time with his old buddy Leo, who's a mechanic there.
Yeah.
And what was kind of funny to me about this is I'm watching this and I'm thinking, oh yeah, this was when car racing was a big thing. And then I stop for a minute and go, oh wait, no, actually car racing is this huge thing. I just, it's just not something I watch. But actually, yes, NASCAR is like a multi-billion-dollar enterprise, and
Yeah.
massive money is made on it. So, but it was interesting to me just how it struck me about how sometimes you'll see these things. Oh, it's very period specific because that was a hip thing at that time. And then I realized afterwards, oh no, wait, that's actually still a hip thing. That's actually still something people are doing to this day.
Yeah. So it is relevant to the times.
Yes. But as luck would have it, Callahan's a drunk.
Yeah.
Which we see.
Really bad one, too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You know what? Maybe he was hired to drive the car. Maybe that's what that was.
He could have.
Oh, no, because he was asking what time they open.
Right.
So he says, we open at 7:30, and the guy's not even there, because, of course, he's sleeping it off. And then Joe Conti takes it upon himself to give David the keys to the car.
Right.
He's got his diabolical master plan.
Yeah.
Oh, that's actually Lee Dubrow. Who plays Leo, our mechanic. He actually was in. He was the one who was in Escape from Los Santos. Now,
I was gonna say because he kind of looks familiar too. I've seen him in a movie or two.
Yeah, well, all these guys, and we always say that, about this show. People just keep on coming back, and he's been around. Magnum PI, Werewolf, Heart to Heart, Incredible Hulk. Yes, he was in Escape from Los Santos as Mike Evans.
Oh.
Yes.
Good.
Yeah, and hey, still working. He was in Stuff It. He played Mr. Russell in 2015, Kids vs. Monsters. 2014, he was Norman. Yeah, he works, man.
That's good.
People are still out there working. I love when I see that. It's just somebody who's still managing to get gigs every year.
Yeah.
You know, you love that. You
Yeah.
love to see that uninterrupted IMDb page. Anyway.
Absolutely.
Yes. Anyway, so David drives off in his car, completely unawares of what's going on. Picks up this delightful young hitchhiker, Nancy. And of course, what I thought was funny is that that's the, you know, like I said, the last time we saw Nancy, she was picking up David, you know. And, you know, David does make point that, you know, he's been on the other end of it enough times. He's not going to leave someone stranded by the side of the road, you know.
Yeah.
David believes in karma and paying it forward.
Yes, he does.
And meanwhile, Joe and Leo are in his Trans Am, which he is driving flat out to try and catch up with him because they have an hour head start. But
they have 2 hour head start.
2 hour head start, yeah. But Joe was like, we can make that up.
Yeah.
You know, I hope so. But
I'm in a Trans Am, and that's a POS.
Yeah, but, you know, also it's 101 degrees out, as we heard from our...
Well, that, and as many times as they had to stop, I'm just like, all I kept thinking was, don't stop anymore, David. Just throw her out of the car. You'll never get to New York at this rate.
Yeah.
Next month by the time you get there.
Well, David is a very... I guess he's a very positive guy. I don't know.
He is. He's very understanding and almost to his detriment.
Yeah, well, definitely to his detriment. Definitely to his detriment. But they stop at a Flying F truck stop, which I thought was interesting. Because if you do a lot of cross-country driving, you know, those are usually Flying J's. So I don't know if that was their attempt at debranding the Flying J that they stopped at, or that there actually was just a knockoff gas station called Flying F that they happened to shoot at. But while they're there, this trucker comes up to Nancy and starts saying, "Hey, Nancy, remember me?"
Yeah.
And, you know, an interesting dynamic there with Nancy. You know, you don't know, was she a good time girl, or do these truckers just assume too much about their relationship?
Right.
You know, I'm inclined to think that she was much more together than people thought, but I also got the feeling that maybe she's been around the block a few times, you know.
Yeah, well, you know, she does divulge her secrets one by one as they're traveling, but yeah.
Yeah.
I'm thinking that perhaps maybe that wasn't his imagination. That, you know.
Yeah, you know. Although for what it's worth, that trucker, you know, when he's got his head sticking in David's car, and David's sitting, and it's like, well, what are you going to do? It's like, well, for starters, I could just drive off.
Yeah, pretty much.
Really not in any position to do anything, buddy, you know?
Yeah.
Inside the car, you are half stuck out of the car. You'll be lucky you don't dislocate your shoulder when I drive off.
Exactly.
But drive off they do. And then Leo and Joe set up their trap where Leo runs out to get David's attention. He stops. Joe's laying on the ground as if he is passed out. And David's like, oh, my goodness, what happened? Although I like that they did this nice little bit earlier where they showed that Nancy, the waitress, has all of her tips in change.
I like that.
Yes.
I made a note about that.
Well, you know, it's actually very practical for the time that, yes, if you were a waitress, you had tons and tons of change, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Because not for nothing, you know, even if you're a 15% tipper, if you're, you know, if a burger and coffee is $1.50, you know, you're leaving, you know, a quarter, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, you know,
I don't know, and the fact that she offered to buy him a soda, and I was like, a soda?
Yes.
You could afford like 100 sodas. Come on, lady.
Yeah, but you know, she's got plans for that money.
This is true.
She's got to roll them all up by hand. Remember, you know, this is before you could go get the coin counting machine. Okay. Yeah. But so David is over Joe, and then Leo comes up from behind him and hits him in the back of gives him a nice rabbit punch to knock him almost out.
Right.
And then they start doing the body work on him and throw him into the cactus patch.
That was that was not cool.
No, not cool. But it comes back against them because then Joe's there trying to, and it's funny because it's like, you can see that Nancy thinks that he's, going to try and attack her. But he just wants to get the car. He just wants to get the trunk open.
Right.
He really should have come around to the driver's side, and he probably would have been better off. But because he's trying to go in through the passenger side, he gets a face full of a coin purse.
He opens up a can of whoop ass. Yes.
Yeah. Well, he gets it opened up on him. Is basically.
Yeah.
They are really. They are kind of hapless criminals,
Yeah, they're just not really in the business. They're to take it that seriously. They just want the money.
Yeah, although, like I said, they go full in. I mean, they're like full on sociopath there, where they're, like I said, beating the heck out of David and throwing him in the cactus patch. But of course, then finally, once everyone has looked away. The cactuses are outrageous enough for him to become outraged, and he hulks out.
Yeah, he does.
And then, of course, Nancy sees the Hulk and just runs away. And Joe and Leo try to make a break for it. Joe's in the car trying to drive away. The Hulk tosses Leo onto the hood, and then the Hulk lifts up that little plastic bumper that you had on Camaros back then. And that was I thought that was a pretty cool Hulk scene there. And, eventually the bumper falls off the car and it just speeds away. And that was nice. Meanwhile, back at the car lot, Callahan is in a lot of trouble.
He is.
That's the mob's money, and they would like it back. And Danny, our local sociopath, is not in a man you want to cross.
No,
he's the driver. He's a driver, but we also find out later on that Callahan used to be a driver.
Yeah.
But the driving got to be too much for him, and he just started to drink. Very sad.
Yeah. Very sad, definitely.
But basically, Clyde, I believe it's Clyde, is our mobster here. He sends Callahan and Danny off to Flagstaff to pick up the car. Because someone's got to do it. And, that's when we get some nice things between Danny and Callahan, where Callahan is dumping out Danny is dumping out all of Callahan's whiskey, which just breaks poor Callahan's heart.
Of course it does. And he put quite a bit in there, too.
Yeah.
He was in it for the long haul.
Well, yeah. Well, he had at least 2/5, And, which is almost a half gallon of straight whiskey that he was planning on drinking between L.A. and Flagstaff.
Yeah.
Basically, he brought enough whiskey for a 3-hour drive. I guess enough whiskey to get him through a 6-hour drive for the drive back. But because
he could always pick up more once they got there.
Yeah, well, exactly. But Danny throws out all the booze, and then they figure that David's got to go to the garage again. For reasons, there's a garage he has to go to, and we see that. Basically, Danny has cleared out the garage, and Callahan's like, well, why are we clearing out the garage? Why don't we just, get the car from him, say, hey, there was a mistake. No, this doesn't have to go any further. If the guy doesn't know, then, no reason to tell him. But Danny sees this as his opportunity to basically screw over the mob.
Yeah.
Because Danny is a sociopath. And we get a
Yes.
moment of heroism from Callahan as he, because I guess he realizes that Danny is very particular.
Yeah.
And, gets him to basically mess himself up, so he has to go into the bathroom to clean up. And then Callahan, bars the door with the heavy toolboxes just as David comes in, and then he jumps into the car. Says, "Get out of here, he's a sociopath." And out comes Danny, guns a-blazing.
Oh, yeah. Not hitting anything, mind you,
No,
but yeah.
Well, he's not the best shot. He's a driver, not a shooter.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Joe and Leo are... Leo's pretty much about to give up on this because he thinks, this is not the best way to do this, and, but Joe, he really wants to do it one last time, and when he sees them peeling off, he gets in the car to follow them, but of course it's been too much for the engine, and it explodes.
Yeah.
Very sad, he didn't...
Very sad.
Yeah.
Poor Trans Am.
Yeah, well, but Joe really wanted a different life, but since the accident, I guess he couldn't get to work, and that's sad in its own way.
It is, but I like to think that perhaps later on down the road that, he finds himself a little car and maybe a younger driver. Maybe, he can bring him up in the ranks like he was.
Yeah. Or maybe he just learns to accept his life for what it is and do a better job at being a mechanic.
Fuck.
Well, one of the very early episodes.
That works too.
One of the very early episodes of this series was, I think it was called The Boxer.
Mm-hmm.
And, David meets this sort of, idiot man-child who is also a professional boxer. But he also fixes cars. And, the moral of the story was, give up on your dreams and go get a nice, steady job fixing cars. Because you're good at it. And you're not good at what you want to be. You want to be a boxer, but you're not any good at it. So that's probably not the best career path for you. But, it's a good episode. That was in season 1. I think that was, the 3rd or 4th episode.
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah. It's always hard to count the episodes in the first season because there were a lot of two-parters. Because it was originally kind of done much more as a movie of the week kind of thing, where you'd have the 1-2 hour film that you could break up, and then later on they move into the 1 hour drama format, which is nice.
Right.
Anyway, they on the run they plow into a wrecking yard.
Yeah.
Because you got to have a good demolition derby.
Absolutely. And the guy calls the police to, hey, these guys are wrecking my cars. Yeah. Seriously? You're a wrecking yard?
But
the cars aren't going anywhere anyway. I think they're pretty much toast already.
But he wants to wreck them. He doesn't want them any more wrecked than they already are, Because not for nothing.
Yeah, that's a tough business, though. I'm telling you, that's
when you got that many cars up there, a lot of them are actually there just for parts. You're not.
Oh, absolutely.
You're not actually going to wreck them right away until you've already stripped off anything of value from it. So he wants it. So he's afraid someone's going to come. One of these cars is going to hit one of these cars. You're gonna crack an axle on one of the cars that was sitting there, and now that's like $500 out of his pocket,
Yeah, he could actually have an engine for a Camaro or a Trans Am in there.
Yeah, well, and that would have been very useful for good old Joe. Anyway, so they're driving, and of course they roll the car. David's pinned as Danny has Nancy and Callahan right where he wants them. And then David has his Hulk out.
Yeah.
And David Hulk's
not
out.
after some pretty fancy driving on his part, mind you.
Yeah, but not for nothing. It's like everyone really has got to. People have got to know that he's the Hulk at this point. It's It's like, gee, David was in the car, trapped in the car. Now David's not in the car, and now the Hulk's coming out of the car.
Yeah.
And they both are wearing the same color pants.
Yeah.
But then again, I think maybe sometimes it's just better for some people. They just don't want to know. You know, they don't want to say. You know. They don't
No,
want
I
it
think
seen.
that works.
Yeah.
Yeah, it totally works.
So the Hulk quickly dispatches Danny. The money just is blowing all over the place.
Yep.
And then the Hulk runs off.
Yep.
And then we get our nice little after the show recap to let you know that no Callahans were harmed in the making of this film. We find out that Callahan is going to turn state's evidence.
Yep.
And Nancy stole a couple $100 because it was just laying around, and who counts that stuff?
Yeah.
And she's going to go back home to see her daughter, who she hasn't seen in years. And she offers, and this is one of these moments where you know David's got money.
Oh, yeah. I made a note of that.
Yeah, because she goes to give him $100 saying, thank you for all you've given me. And he's like, you know, it's real sweet of you, but I really don't need it.
Yeah.
And not for nothing, this is a man who a couple episodes ago was stealing apples because he was so hungry. You know, but he knows he has cash, and he knows he has money that he can get to. He's okay. He has found a way to get through at this point. There are times when he gets desperate, but he's not desperate today. So he gives her the hundred back, tells her to give the little plush puppy dog to her daughter because David doesn't want to be carrying that all around everywhere he goes. You know? It's like,
he's got enough stuff to carry in his brown bag already.
Exactly. And then that's the end of the episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. What did you think? Of Rose?
Well, you know, when she got in the car, I literally am thinking, like, is she ever going to stop talking? But, you know, that's her character. So it was just like David just keeps smiling, that placid smile that, you know, that you have when inside of your brain you're thinking, shut up anytime, this would be great.
Yeah.
But he's a very understanding person. Like, you know, I think that has a lot to do with, he has a lot of patience. So she has the story, and then the story changes, and then she finally just admits, okay, I'm a failure as a mother, and I've got a 5-year-old kid, and I probably should go back for her birthday, but I just don't think she wants anything to do with me. Or, you know, she finally just breaks down and is honest, and it's just like, that has absolutely no, it doesn't faze him at all. He's just like, yeah, well, okay.
But you know, there was actually a real tragedy in that story that wasn't really touched on. Because she says that her daughter is with her grandparents.
Right.
She doesn't say they're staying with my parents. She says the child's grandparents, suggesting that it's the father's parents, which also suggests something happened to the father.
Right.
You know?
Right.
You know, maybe he's a trucker who's off for 3 months of the, you know, who's on the road every couple of months, so he's never around, or you know, maybe he died tragically in some situation, or
possibly he could have died in Vietnam. I mean,
or maybe he just left.
This is true.
You know,
it's very true.
But anyway, I thought I noticed that, and that was like one of these little things. Like, oh, there's a whole story there that we're gonna have to put in the pieces on.
Yeah, but she's, you know, still has a brave face. You know, she still keeps up the appearance that, you know, even though she, you know, has a tragic life, that she's just gonna keep going until she figures it out. So she's got that for going for her. So.
And what else can you do?
This is true. Can't give up.
Okay, and with that, we will cue the Lonely Man theme, and we're all going to wander off into the sunset, joyfully.
Brown bags in hand.
Brown bags in hand. And 80s Music Girl, if folks want to reach out to you, tell you how awesome you are, how can they do so?
Well, I am on Twitter at 80s Music Girl. I am 80s Music Girl on Facebook and 80s Music Girl on Instagram.
Awesome. And, of course, you can always write to me in that old-fashioned email way, the way David Banner might on some occasion in the near future, at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word, @gmail.com. And you can follow me on the Twitters as I do live tweet the Incredible Hulk 7 o'clock on Saturdays when I can, although the last 2 weeks I have not been able to, and I felt so bad about that. But, busy. But I will be getting back to it hopefully this Saturday. Fingers crossed. To live tweet The Incredible Hulk at Charlie Esser. That's CharlieEsser. Look for the 2 E's in the middle for quality. Good night, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for hulking out with us. Please hulk out with us again.
We hope you've enjoyed this show. This podcast is part of the 80s Reboot Overdrive channel on Southgate Media Group. You can follow us on Facebook on the 80s Reboot group page. We're also on Twitter and Tumblr at 80s Reboot. We invite you to check out all the wonderful podcasts and blogs available at southgatemediagroup.com. And thank you for reliving the 80s.